All right, we're focused on the president's Supreme Court pick next week, but, I do want to get to that, but I also want to get to this Peter Strzok thing. Next week they want him to testify on Capitol Hill. He's resisting because it could just be a cabal after him. So I do want to address what's happening with him, what's happening with the Supreme Court pick. Kim Strassel, the Wall Street Journal Editorial Board member, Fox News contributor. Kim, it's the Strzok testimony that has me wondering, A, whether he ever will testify, and then what happens if he doesn't, and the drama that builds. Where do you see this going?
Well, his lawyers are being very clever here right now, Neil. They're suggesting that he shouldn't have to testify publicly because he already spoke to the committee privately. People I talked to on the Hill said that it was always made clear to the Strzok team that they both wanted to meet with him ahead of time in private session and that there was going to be a public hearing. And that's traditional in Washington when you're conducting an investigation like this, to actually have the key figures come and explain themselves, not just for the members, but to the country as well, too. So I think that if he doesn't voluntarily agree to do this, he will be subpoenaed and required to come in and take the fifth.
So he spoke for, 11 hours worth of questioning last time. Do we know whatever came of a lot of the points that they were bringing up at the time?
No, I mean, other than a broad disputation between Republicans and Democrats about just how forthcoming he was or whether he was reticent, whether he was fulsome, they had a fight over that. But we haven't got many of the details about what he explained. Now, don't worry, there are plenty of questions, and there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle here that Peter Strzok is in a perfect position to answer. So he is a key and central figure here because, remember, he ran not just the Hillary Clinton investigation, but the Donald Trump one as well, too.
Speaking of Donald Trump, the president on Monday will make it official, his next Supreme Court pick. He had great good fortune with Neil Gorsuch. How do you expect it will go this go around?
Well, look, one thing I think that if you are someone that cares about Neil Gorsuch-type judges and having them on the court, that constituency has to be thrilled with the broader list that the president has touted all along, but also with the three frontrunners that seem to have emerged: Brett Kavanaugh from the D.C. Circuit, Raymond Kethledge from the Sixth Circuit, and Amy Coney Barrett from the Seventh Circuit. They are all brilliant, very talented jurists, and there's no real question that they are talented enough and good enough, qualified enough to sit on the Supreme Court and will be very much in the mold of a Neil Gorsuch or an Antonin Scalia.
Now, the one who's getting a lot of scrutiny, maybe just because she stands out as the only woman mentioned, is Amy Coney Barrett. And I'm wondering, when they start talking about how many kids she has and all that, and they don't do that for the male justices being considered, I think we've gone into the twilight zone here again. So how do you envision this whole process going?
Well, here's the thing. If you're a Democrat, you are desperate to make sure that you derail this nomination if you can. They're very concerned.
No matter who it is,
obviously,
right? No matter who it is.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It does not matter who is chosen at this point. They will be subject to vicious attacks. But the problem for Democrats is that, again, you cannot argue that any of these, from a jurisprudence standpoint, are not qualified for the court. So the only thing you can do is instead suggest that somehow they are out of the mainstream. And so you are going to see a lot of attacks on personal aspects of these candidates' lives. Their religion, for instance, their personal choices, how many children they have. Some focuses on specific decisions that suggest that maybe they are not like your normal average American.
Right.
I think it could be hard to make it stick, and it has the risk of turning off some Americans, especially those religious attacks, because I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, people don't particularly like religious tests when it comes to judges.
Very good point. Kim Strassel, very much. And Democrats didn't like it when it applied to one of their guys running for president of the United States in 1960, John Kennedy. His Catholicism shouldn't have made an issue then. Now suddenly it's an issue now.